Imagine inheriting a slice of American dream only to have some self-appointed neighborhood dictator try to bulldoze it with a clipboard and a sneer. But what if that tyrant? All polished smiles and moral lectures. Unraveled spectacularly when her own dirty secrets spilled out like cheap wine? In the sun-drenched valleys of Northern California, where rolling hills met manicured suburbs, lived Jack Harlan. A quiet man with dirt under his nails and a legacy in his veins. His grandfather had planted the first vines after World War II, turning barren scrub into Harlan Vineyards, a thriving patch of Merlot and Cabernet that supplied local wineries and employed half the town's seasonal workers. Jack had taken over a decade ago, content to prune grapes and bottle history. Until the sprawl crept in. New developments sprouted like weeds, bringing cookie-cutter houses and the Evergreen Meadows HOA. A beast of bylaws that promised community harmony but delivered suffocating rules. At its helm was Marlene Marge Whitaker, the ultimate Karen in pearls and power suits, who preached about elevating property values while treating neighbors like serfs. Marge's board meetings were spectacles of passive-aggressive theater, where she'd sigh dramatically over unapproved flower beds or unsightly mailboxes, all while sipping her decaf latte like a queen on her throne. Jack first crossed paths with Marge on a crisp autumn morning, the kind where the air smelled of ripening fruit. He was out in the fields, clipping overgrown tendrils with his shears, when her SUV pulled up at the edge of his property. She stepped out in heels that sank into the gravel, clipboard in hand, sunglasses perched like a crown. "Mr. Harlan," she called out, her voice honeyed with that fake politeness that masked venom. "We need to discuss your fencing situation." Jack straightened up, wiping sap from his hands. "Fencing? It's been here since the 50s. Marge holds the vines just fine." She tilted her head, lips curling into a pitying smile. "Oh, bless your heart. But our guidelines specify uniform white vinyl rails, no more than 4 feet high, spaced precisely. This rustic eyesore? It's dragging down the aesthetic. Think of the children playing nearby, they deserve better views." Jack chuckled inwardly at the absurdity. His fence was on his land, predating her HOA by generations, but he kept his cool. "Appreciate the concern, but my deed says otherwise. This isn't part of your jurisdiction." Marge's eyes narrowed behind her shades. "Jurisdiction? Honey, harmony isn't optional. We'll send a notice. For the community's sake." As she drove off, Jack watched her taillights fade, sensing the storm brewing. Little did she know, he was already noting every word, every overreach, in a journal tucked away like his grandfather's old recipes. The notices started small, like annoying gnats, but soon swarmed into a plague. First came the citation for non-compliant agricultural clutter, code for the oak barrels stacked outside his barn, aging wine under the sun as they'd done for decades. Jack found the bright yellow paper taped to his door one evening, the ink screaming violations in bold caps. He peeled it off, shaking his head. Clutter? These barrels put food on tables around here. But he didn't rip it up, he filed it away, along with photos of the tape residue marring his paint. Marge escalated at the next HOA meeting, held in the sterile community center with its fluorescent lights buzzing like judgmental whispers. "Folks," she announced, projecting a blurry photo of Jack's barrels onto the screen. "This kind of disregard threatens our values. Property values. Family values, it's all connected." Murmurs rippled through the crowd, some nodded. Others shifted uncomfortably. Jack sat in the back, silent, observing how she manipulated the room with her Concerned Citizen Act. Whispers spread, heard he's using illegal pesticides, probably why his grapes look so unnatural. Jack overheard it at the local diner, where the waitress avoided his eyes. He bit his tongue. But inside, he was piecing together her game: defame first, demand compliance later. As weeks turned to months, Marge's tactics amped up the absurdity, turning the neighborhood into a farce of overregulation. Drones buzzed over Jack's vines like nosy paparazzi, capturing evidence of supposed infractions. One afternoon, as Jack irrigated the rows, the whir overhead made him look up. There it was, hovering low, its camera lens glinting mockingly. Safety inspection, Marge later emailed, attaching grainy shots of his pruning stakes labeled potential hazards. Jack replied dryly, hazards? These stakes guide growth, kinda like how your rules stifle it. No response. But soon after, inspectors, hired goons in khakis, trespassed onto his land, measuring fence posts with tape measures while trampling young shoots. Excuse me, Jack said, blocking one guy's path. This is private property. The inspector smirked. HOA mandate. For the greater good. Jack snapped photos of their boots in the dirt, adding to his growing dossier. Meanwhile, the smears intensified. At a block party Marge hosted, complete with her Unity punch that tasted suspiciously like entitlement, she cornered neighbors. Poor Jack's just resistant to progress. Rumors say his operation's not even legal. Old deeds can be so outdated. Laughter followed, nervous and forced. But it stung. Jack heard the gossip at the hardware store. Bet he's hiding something out there. He endured it all quietly, smiling through gritted teeth, while secretly consulting a lawyer friend about his ironclad deed, which granted agricultural easements immune to HOA whims. The pressure cooker hissed louder when Marge weaponized the community newsletter. That glossy rag of propaganda mailed to every doorstep. Urgent alert, environmental concerns at Harlan Vineyards, the headline blared, insinuating pesticide overuse without a shred of proof. For our kids' health, it pleaded, with a photo of Jack's field circled in red like a crime scene. Overnight, stares turned hostile. A mom yanked her kid away from Jack at the park, muttering about toxic runoff. Even old friends hesitated. Jack, is it true you're skimping on regulations? He shook his head, but the isolation gnawed. Marge upped the ante with fines, $500 for the barrels, $200 for visual pollution from his truck parked in plain sight. Jack paid none, instead gathering allies in whispers. Mrs. Lopez, a widow fined for her gaudy garden gnomes, shared receipts showing Marge's board funneled dues into mysterious beautification slush funds. She's buying fancy lunches on her dime, Lopez confided. Jack nodded, his patience a coiled spring. At another meeting, Marge pontificated, resistance like Mr. Harlan's erodes our fabric. We must unite against outliers. Jack stood up then, voice steady. Outliers? Or just folks who remember freedom before your clipboard empire? Snickers erupted, Marge's smile faltered, her cheeks flushing. Order, she snapped. But the seed of doubt was planted. Tensions boiled over when Marge, sensing her grip slipping, called the cops on Jack during a routine pruning session. Blue lights flashed across the vines as 2 patrol cars screeched up, sirens wailing like overkill for a parking ticket. Marge stood at the property line, triumphant, pointing dramatically. Arrest him. He's trespassing on community land with those dangerous tools. Jack held his shears, sap dripping, as deputies approached. Ma'am, what's the issue? One asked. Marge huffed, His fence encroaches. And look at that clutter, it's a menace. Jack calmly pulled out his laminated deed from his pocket. Officers. This land's been Harlan's since 1948. Recorded at the county. With easements that laugh at HOA rules. The deputies scan the document. Faces shifting from stern to bemused. Looks legit, the lead said. Handing it back. Marge's jaw dropped. But. Guidelines, she sputtered. Guidelines aren't law. Ma'am, the deputy replied. Tipping his hat. As they drove off. Leaving her fuming. Jack turned to her with a mild smile. Next time. Check the map before you map out my ruin. The neighborhood buzzed, videos of the scene went viral on local Facebook groups. Marge's indignant pose memed into clipboard Karen strikes again. But Jack wasn't done. Armed with his dossier, receipts, drone footage, witness statements, he tipped off the state attorney general about Marge's shady dealings. Turns out, her beautification fund was a personal piggy bank, $30,000 siphoned for her cousin's landscaping gig, that never happened. Plus boat slips and spa days billed as community patrols. The investigation hit like a hailstorm. At the emergency town hall. Packed with neighbors under glaring lights. Marge seized the mic first. This is a witch hunt. Fabricated by sore losers like Mr. Harlan. My connections, my brother's a state rep, will sort this. Her voice cracked with false bravado. Face beading sweat. The AG stepped up. Projecting damning slides, forged invoices. Embezzled dues. Fraud. Plain and simple. Gasps filled the room. Marge blustered. Context. It's all reimbursable. But laughter bubbled up, sharp. Mocking, as a neighbor quipped. Reimbursable like your ego? The AG dropped the bomb, criminal charges. Deputies entered. Cuffs ready. Marge shrieked. You can't. I'm untouchable. Click, the metallic snap echoed as they let her out. Her pearls clattering. Phones capturing every humiliated step. The hall erupted in cheers, Mrs. Lopez hugged Jack. Tears streaming. You did it. In the aftermath. Justice poured like fine wine. Marge's empire crumbled, assets seized. Board dissolved. Her house foreclosed after frozen accounts. Neighbors got refunds with interest, Mrs. Lopez bought new gnomes. Toasting Jack at a vineyard barbecue. The state locked Harlan Vineyards under permanent agricultural protection. Shielding it from future Karens forever. Jack walked the rows at dusk. Journal in hand. Echoing his grandfather's words, land outlasts tyrants. The valley breathed free. Festivals returning with laughter unmarred by fear. But here's the twist that lingers, was Marge the real villain? Or just a symptom of a system that lets petty power corrupt everyday folks? You tell me, is it ever right to bend rules for harmony, or does true community thrive on calling out the clipboard queens before they cuff themselves?